people who had abstinence-only sex education. What was the most outrageous or untrue thing you were told?
If a man ejaculates on or near your body, the sperm will swim around and find your vag and you will get pregnant.
Breaking news: sperm more accurate and lethal than ballistic missiles.
My teacher said anal sex makes your anus irreversibly loose. She said butt plugs were used by gay men 24/7 to keep their anuses from leaking because they were all loose from anal sex. I really dislike that woman.
Having sex with one person is like having sex with 100 people.
Having sex with 0 people is like having sex with 99 people. Later, virgins.
So that orgy I went to is fine?
No, because that's the equivalent of having sex with 1,000 people.
Hugging a boy will get you pregnant. Edit. Oh no, someone gave me the hugging award. Guess I'm pregnant.
My dad pointed to a teenage couple hugging when I was a kid and told me that's how you get pregnant. Months later at the fair, my aunt put my 5-year-old cousin on the back of my horse and told him to wrap his arms around my waist to hold on. My heart sank. Later that day I shamefully told my dad that my 5-year-old cousin got me pregnant.
That same person, go on Darla, give Uncle Jackson a big old hug. Honestly, I think his prison sentence for sexual assault with overrated. Yep, I see these two clashing a lot.
Yeah, unfortunately.
If a gay man and a lesbian woman have a baby, the baby will be trans.
So that's what they mean by the gay agenda.
Wait a minute, what?
Yeah, I was taught that in sex ed. I guess they thought it worked out like PEMDAS.
My girlfriend's sex ed program in middle school included a wedding dress that they splattered with red paint.
What the hell happened here?
Who even knows? F-ing wackadoodles.
So I'm Irish and Catholic. Growing up in Dublin, we had church-sanctioned sex education. Some of the highlights: all penises are the same size when erect. We were 14 and this was hilarious to us. Being gay is just a phase. No method of birth control is reliable, including oral sex and body rubbing.
LMAO, why on earth would the thing about DK size be in church-sanctioned sex ed?
Long ass face.
If you are willing to make out with someone, you'll end up having sex with them because you pass the point of no return on the mountain climb to sex.
This is somehow the weirdest to me.
Yeah, we all had to mark our line of what behaviors we wouldn't go past with a big line marking the point of no return, so needless to say no one put theirs past that line.
Opposite story. I went to a Catholic high school. My health teacher was a progressive. So she closed the door and said, "Listen, okay, sure, masturbation is a sin or whatever, but it's actually fine. You gotta, clean out the pipes once in a while. Now if your friends ask you to go to the movies and your answer is, sorry, gotta stay home and jerk off, probably step it back a bit."
Had a sister teach sex ed in a Catholic elementary school. She flat out gave correct names, body parts and their functions. In 4th grade she also explained exactly how to use a tampon.
I love the idea of the rational one locking everyone in the room to sneak some education in before the ideologues turn up. In a school.
Your health teacher was based as F. Props to them.
The instructor gave all the boys in the class chewing gum and let them chew on it for a few minutes. Then she asked them if any of them wanted to share. Of course none did. Then she asked if they didn't want to share gum, why would they want to share sex partners? This was in a co-ed class, so all the girls in the class got to see too.
That wouldn't have worked on the guys I went to school with. They would have switched gum immediately just to be contrarian.
Now spit out the gym and leave it on your desk. Would you like to chew that gum again tomorrow? Such a flawed analogy, even within the ideology.
Instructions unclear. Was I supposed to F the gum?
No, you're supposed to chew it after someone else FS it. Pay attention, dude.
I was given a diagram of the female anatomy in which the clitoris had been erased, as in someone went into MS Paint and whited it out on a line drawing of the exterior of the vulva. The urethra, vag, labia, anus were labeled, and then at the top of the labia, it was whited out.
How many girls would walk away from that convinced something was wrong with them? It's absolutely disgusting the way we hide this kind of knowledge behind locks and keys.
Pleasure bad greater than sad face.
That the actual vag opening is as small as the tip of a pencil. I also never knew women didn't pee from their vags until I was 16. I'm 19 now and learned more from poo posts on the internet than I ever had in school. ETA, the amount of people who seem to not know the latter is astonishing. Women have urethras and that's where they pee from. No, you won't accidentally do it with the urethra.
My friend, who is female, didn't know that you don't pee from your vag until she was 16. She said something about having to pee but not having an extra tampon, so she couldn't take hers out, and her cousin was like, "You don't have to take your tampon out to pee, it's a different hole." Edit, my husband is now mad because I have more karma than him, ha ha ha.
I was convinced that saliva was involved in the baby-making process. Not that you'd kiss someone and then boom pregnant, but that someone's saliva over time would make their baby look like you. The more saliva, the stronger the resemblance. Long story short, I spit in my cousin's drinks for a solid 2 months because I wanted her baby, she was pregnant at the time, to look like me, who was 8. ETA, this was about 25 years ago, and also I'm a woman. That's how absolutely terrible my sex education was.
Was the baby the spitting image of you? Edit. Wow, thanks for the awards. This is my best received Reddit comment ever, smiley face. I am probably too proud of it, haha.
The teacher said that you can only really love one sexual partner, and that's why it's so important that your spouse be your first and only partner. One of my classmates raised her hand and said, "My mom died when I was a baby and my dad's been married to my stepmom for 10 years. Does that mean he only loves one of them?" The teacher just looked uncomfortable and moved on to how premarital sex causes depression.
Oh good God, poor kid. Those teachings are F-ed.
I'm from Utah. The stuff we learn there is terrible. I've been married 3 years and still sometimes wake up in the middle of the night crying and wondering if the reason I miscarried is because I slept with my husband before our wedding day and ruined my reproductive system somehow. I have a degree in biology, I know that's not how anything works, but that crap sticks in your head.
I got told that too. My mom said that orgasms released bonding chemicals in a woman's brain, so you will never be able to connect to a different person the way you will be bonded to your first sexual partner because the bonding chemicals altered your brain. Once the chemicals changed your brain, that was that, no second chances. Since I'd figured out masturbation long before that little chat, I spent years wondering if I would only ever be able to connect with myself since there was never anyone for all those bonding hormones to connect me with. I was in college before I was brave enough to Google that poo myself. In her defense, she had basically no sex ed and is pretty shy, embarrassed about sexual stuff, so I'm sure she was just repeating what she'd been told. But yeah, abstinence-only sex ed is all that any kid needs.
The used pair of shoes analogy. Maybe if some people would just wash their damn feet and wear socks, the shoes wouldn't get dirty.
So you should change partners regularly. When you've worn them out or need to go to a fancy party maybe. One partner for hiking, one for the gym. As a teenager I was such a cynical, pedantic little poo. I almost wish I had gone to a religious school just to tear apart these stupid analogies, haha.
Went to public school and had real sex ed, but had a history teacher who told us that sex before marriage is a sin because every time you have sex you get pregnant, and if a kid is born outside of wedlock they are going to hell, and we will also go to hell for damning the baby's soul before it's even born. She said condoms and any other birth control is an insult to God and a way for atheists to try and outsmart him. She didn't work there after that year. Wonder why.
Greater than atheists try to outsmart him. This makes God look very bad when you realize that birth control actually works.
This is probably pretty tame, but sophomore year our teacher told us using multiple condoms at a time increases its effectiveness. I then asked my mum the same thing, and her whole job is to teach safe sex to youth. Spoiler alert, ***, do not layer condoms. It sounds good in practice, but you're actually weakening the condoms and wasting them, ***. Utah's sex ed policy was, is poo.
This woman once compared a teenage girl who's had premarital sex as chewed up bubble gum. She then switched the comparison to a pair of worn-out shoes. Poo you not.
Ours was a piece of tape. And they stuck it to a few guys and pulled it off and then said, "Now who's going to want this tape now?"
Condoms don't always work, so it's better to not use them. If you ejaculate on a girl, yes, she will get pregnant. Regardless of if you had sex or not. Boys get so horny sometimes they can't control themselves. So girls, it's up to you to remove temptation for the boys. Birth control pills disrupt a girl's hormones so badly she will become barren.
Remove temptation, so like, pluck out boys' eyes and cut off penises? Or maybe just castrate? Got it. S.
I wish birth control disrupted my hormones enough to make me barren, that would be great.
That every time I a girl, had sex, I was giving away a part of my soul. So each sex partner whittled away bits of my soul. If I had sex before marriage, my God-given husband would only get a tiny scrap instead of a full half, and thus wouldn't be able to love me as much as he would if I'd waited. Honestly, it's pretty confusing. This was taught in my Christian private school.
Giving half your soul to a person sounds very dangerous. Much safer to split it between multiple vessels.
Till premarital sex is equivalent to a horcrux, according to Christianity.
We were told that the G-spot and clitoris, female orgasm, doesn't exist, and that if your hymen is broken before you are married, you may as well give up because a man would never want you, which is wrong in so many different ways. There was a girl in that class that had been recently RPD that just put her head down and started crying in the back of the class. Everyone knew about it somehow. Rumors spread quick here. The teacher knew about it and either said it as a dig at her or just said it and didn't care. He also stated to never use tampons since you basically lose your virginity from them. Thankfully, high school students are much more aware about these topics now, so everyone would make fun of the teacher behind his back, and many understandably hated him after his comment about hymens. I went to a small, well, large in comparison to the other schools in my state public school in Idaho. This was also not long ago. If I have to guess, it was in 2017-2018? On a lighter side note, I can list off a couple funny comments I heard from the boys during that class. Women have 3 holes? I've been looking up the wrong poo online. I thought that if you had sex in a hot tub you couldn't get pregnant because the sperm will boil and die. Minus 30 different versions of, I thought girls peed out of their bags, butts, but my personal favorite was, wouldn't it get annoying to have to take out your tampon every time you needed to pee? I imagine it's gross to put back in. Wait 4 to 7 days? I thought it lasted like 20 minutes. Damn, I'd be pissed too, what the hell? You're telling me I can get a vasectomy and still jack it? Why isn't it done like a goddamn flu shot then? Edit. Mobile formatting.
Brew the last comment.
Okay, honestly, if I find out that a teacher said that to my child, then a teacher is about to get hurt.
1. Condoms don't work. Why? Because sperm are microscopic, STDs are even smaller, and, you think a piece of plastic is going to protect you? 2. The cookie analogy. I'm sure there are multiple names for this, but the idea is, who wants to eat a cookie when everyone's already bitten out of it?
My church-based sex ed claimed that foreplay involved things like reciting poetry to one another or playing the violin together. I guess their plan was for us to be so bad at foreplay we'd never have sex.
You know what? Reading a heartfelt poem to each other and reciting a passionate violin duet before absolutely decaying down sounds like a genuinely great time.
I just remember this video I was shown in my church youth group of a guy holding a brick over a teen's head and saying there was a 1% change he was going to smash his face in. He was trying to illustrate how the 99% effectiveness of birth control doesn't seem so good when put in different terms, but ya know, those are the actions of a psychopath.
They did this to us, except they gave 6 students a piece of chocolate and said one was laxative. Told us, 1 in 6 condoms doesn't work. Then later they revealed there was no laxative and they just wanted us to think about it. Lol.
That sounds effing hilarious.
Girls and boys had to go to different rooms during sex ed. The girls were told that abstinence is the best option because sex is painful. The boys weren't told that. I understand that sex can be painful for some people, but pretending sex isn't a source of pleasure at all for women is flat out wrong and depressing.
And it normalizes painful sex for women. Sex shouldn't be painful all the time. Edit. This got a lot of traction. I'd like to clarify what I meant about all the time, was that if it's all the time then it's likely time to see a doctor. Occasionally sex can hurt, you may be close to your period, your partner may have hit your cervix, maybe you pulled a muscle. By no means am I saying you should continue intercourse if it hurts, but it may not warrant medical care in those situations. I'd also like to add this very informative article regarding hymens and the fact that they do not break.
https://www.google.com/amp/s/www.upworthy.com/amp/child-abuse-pediatrician-corrects-vital-hymen-with-a-dash-vital-anatomy-lesson-26413747746. Right on.
Kissing gets you pregnant.
Same, except the nuns told us that French kissing in a bathing suit would get you pregnant. Also, They said you shouldn't go on a date to a restaurant that uses white tablecloths because that looks like sheets, which would make your date think of bed and you'd end up having sex.
What the actual F?
I think the kids who asked were just trying to be funny and get a rise out of the teacher, older lady who was a PE and volleyball coach, but in any case they asked where AIDS comes from and how to avoid it. And this lady, in the year of our Lord 2010, responds, AIDS is caused by homosexuals. That's it.
That one kid then yells, "She has AIDS. Run."
Giving birth was natural and felt more like pressure instead of pain. Having sex gave you AIDS. It was the early 90s. They weren't allowed to mention birth control or condoms, so when people asked how do you prevent pregnancy, we were told, you can't. 2 girls in my freshman health class were actually sophomores and taking the class late because they were out having babies when they should have taken it. So, that's how well the system worked.
Barbie. My middle school was predominantly LDS. Our sex education didn't come from a teacher or a health professional, it was one of my LDS classmates' stay-at-home mom who taught us about sex. Instead, she told us about Barbie. See, all of us 12-year-old girls in class needed to idolize Barbie. Ken, Barbie's husband, Ken never sees Barbie gain weight after she gave birth to Kelly and Tommy. Ken never sees Barbie without her hair done. Ken never sees Barbie without makeup on. Barbie is the perfect wife we should all strive to be. She also told us not to trust girls who use tampons.
Well, maybe Barbie didn't gain weight because Kelly is her sister and not her daughter. Barbie doesn't have any kids, which explains why Ken never saw her gain weight. Also, according to Mattel, Barbie and Ken are dating, not married. So her theory is just wrong all around.
What?
Actual quote from my 9th grade health class. If you have sex, chances are you won't get HIV. But, chances are you will.
I've read this several times and I don't think I'm reading this right.
In nearly 30 years, I still haven't been able to figure it out.
That is actually simple to understand. You probably won't get AIDS, but that is a possibility. With our teachers, it wasn't the religious thing or the "don't get AIDS" thing. It was actually the eugenics thing. We were told that whites were superior but only made 2 or 3 babies, while blacks were inferior and made 12 or 13. The teachers wanted us to not use condoms, if we were white, to not let the blacks overwhelm us and make us a minority.
We were told that hickeys kill you because they cause your veins to burst.
Technically, they do cause blood vessels to burst, but it's about as dangerous as a bruise.
I can't think of anything crazy, but I think it's because we generally weren't told much at all. They tried to scare us. Condoms aren't effective. Chances are super high you'll get an STD or get pregnant. Watch this horrific slideshow of worst-case scenario STDs and then watch this video of crying women who regret the abortion they got after getting pregnant from their first sexual encounter. But most topics were just vaguely circled. Some super uncomfortable. Young youth pastor came and educated us, but he would only refer to genitalia as the underwear zone. We were able to write questions on a slip of paper to be answered anonymously, but he only read about 10% of them and deemed the rest inappropriate. Shocker. We had a lot of teenage pregnancies. Edit. Also, to clarify, this was a public school with no religious affiliation. But it was Indiana, so.
Underwear zone.
Yeah, this was my experience too. They were more focused on avoiding topics than addressing anything directly. Still managed to get in some good old-fashioned sex shaming though, can't miss that. Also, I totally forgot that my school also did the ask questions anonymously thing, and it did not work lol. The questions weren't vetted beforehand, so the teacher would pull a slip, look at it, eyes would widen, and then they'd shove the paper away and move to the next one, hoping for a more appropriate question. That teacher no longer teaches lol.
We were shown a video where a lady said she could tell if a girl was a virgin just by looking into her eyes. The implication was that premarital sex causes your spirit to die so that you become just a shell with nothing to offer. Edit to add, I'm sure you can guess that she didn't say the same applied for the boys, as if teenage girls are the only ones to blame for anyone having premarital sex.
Can confirm, am soul is shambling ruin of a person. Did the horizontal bop before sealing marriage before God and the local tax assessor.
Girls should stop seducing men wearing their tank tops and makes-ups.
I can't believe girls wear socks that show their ankles. Calves are already questionable. Ankles are just too much, according to my Catholic high school's dress code.
Being raised in a Catholic country, we actually had religion class in high school 2 hours per week. In that class, the teacher, sometimes a priest, sometimes a highly devout teacher, would touch on sex. Here is one thing I heard repeatedly. How will your spouse feel about your love, if you loved so many people before? Will it be as meaningful? It cheapens your love for your spouse. Sometimes they would talk about molecular structure of a condom and HIV virus. Don't have sex even with a condom. The microscopic holes in rubber are 20 to 100 times larger than HIV virus, so you can still get it.
Greater than, don't have sex even with a condom. The microscopic holes in rubber are 20 to 100 times larger than HIV virus, so you can still get it. Holy poo. It's the same logic that anti-maskers use. Except as an argument for not doing anything.
The school loved to teach, sex will always result in pregnancy, and with abortion being the unforgivable sin, you're damned if you get pregnant, same if you terminate it, and a load of other **t. They changed things after a kid whose folks knew the teacher asked * if it happens every time, why don't you have one? *. She had been having fertility issues for a while. His mother and the teacher knew each other and going to assume he overheard their conversations. Yes, the teacher lost her cool and sent him to the office. We never got told anything aside from they were pulling the class. I mean, let's be real, it was a small town about 15 years ago at a religious school, word got out and they had to do damage control. And yes, this kid was ruthless when he wanted to be. Again, apologies to the folks asking for more stories about him, but I'll be honest, I barely remember anything worth repeating. He was just a middle school smartass that was good at comebacks and a head office frequent flyer.
Greater than, if it happens every time, why don't you have one? Greater than, apparently she had been having fertility issues for a while. Holy poo. That kid just went straight for the jugular and latched right on.
Back then we were all too young to really understand, but looking back, that kid pulled no punches when it came to some of the stuff he said.
That a woman's role in life is to wait for a husband, then dedicate her life to his wishes. Even as a kid, I knew that was F-ed. The boys were in a separate class, taught by a doctor, and actually learned puberty. The girls were taught by the religion teacher. We only discussed respecting our husbands, nothing else. That's when I stopped being Catholic.
And now that teacher wonders why girls stopped being Catholic. I am only assuming that's what happened.
Actually, it's funnier than that, she doesn't teach anymore. She was seriously horrible. I think she's trying to be a realtor now? Guess God didn't want her teaching his children, lol.
When your penis touches a girl's private parts, she gets pregnant.
Somewhat true, but conclusion is wrong. Imagine teaching this to teens, dear God.
Forgot the follow-up of you have to get married after you confess your sins as well. Probably a given though.
Condoms have microscopic holes and don't actually prevent pregnancy, and definitely will not stop you from getting AIDS because the virus is so small it will magically go through the latex.
This is actually partly true, but they never explain it fully because that would be useful. Latex condoms reliably provide protection against HIV. Sheepskin and other animal-derived condoms do not reliably provide protection against HIV due to small pores present in the material. A sperm gamete is about 5 micrometers wide, while HIV is about 130 nanometers wide. Viruses are very small. So it's possible to have pores of a size allowing one and not the other. This information is important for people who need to use animal-derived condoms due to a latex allergy, but saying it is true of all condoms is false. Usually when talking about latex condoms they refer to rubber balloons leaking air, and yes, they will over time, but the molecules in air are on the picometer scale and so are much tinier than viruses.
Did they mean the gaps in the atoms or something?
I was taught in school that self-pleasure was also a sin. So as a young girl discovering her body, every time I masturbated, I'd cry because I thought I was going to hell. I don't know how many times I prayed to God asking for forgiveness.
Unfortunately, I had a friend tell me this too and I believed her. No one else told me anything, so I went by what she said. How horrible, right?
Technically, the Bible never says that jacking off is a sin.
Condoms will fail close to 100% of the time. Sex before marriage makes you a W. If you sleep with someone before you're married, you're cheating on your future husband or wife, and no one will love a cheater. You're setting yourself up for being lonely and unlovable. Good ol' Catholic sex ed. Thankfully that was in CCD and not school.
I asked this question before and relax it again. What if the person you are having sex with is your future wife, husband?
Then you're cheating on God?
Watching pee would make you want sex so much that you wouldn't be able to control yourself.
When I was 11 I was extremely horny and thought sex was the only way to fix it. I would watch pee and fantasize about having sex, but I didn't know masturbation existed. Then one day I found pee titled Woman Solo or something like that. I thought, WTF, how does a girl have sex with herself? I clicked on it and it was a video of a lady fingering herself. I tried it and after a few attempts I found some stuff that made me feel good. Discovering masturbation through pee and successfully learning how to do it probably helped me abstain from sex much longer than if I hadn't known about it. I think I could have easily been 14 and pregnant. Instead I didn't have sex until I felt ready because I knew masturbation could help me out. My teacher said something similar to yours and it made me so mad. Even at the time I knew it was BS.
The last thing I want after busting a nut is to bust another. Edit. I can't believe it was a comment about not wanting to beat my meat too much that got me to 6-figure comment karma on Reddit. What even is this website?
Don't shower while on your period, you will stop bleeding and then you will have gyna problems. Girls that wear thongs are going to damage their genitals.
Pooh. I wish a shower would stop the effing bleeding.
So wait, what, you're just not supposed to clean for 1 week a month? And your grossest feeling weak at that? That's awful.
That one is pretty disgusting. I'm almost sure that if you were external protection, like pads, you're supposed to wash every day to stay fresh.
I was in an all-girls abstinence class in middle school and they said you will get pregnant if you have sex before marriage. They never mentioned protection. Edit. 9th grade year, I took another sexual education class and the class was once again only speaking about abstinence and how you will get pregnant if you decide not to wait. Unlike in middle school, they briefly spoke only about condoms and the teacher basically stated they don't work. I'm a senior RN and throughout high school, I've seen many pregnant girls. Schools need to understand that only speaking about abstinence is not the approach to take. People aren't going to wait until marriage, so instead of scaring young folks, just teach them how to be safe.
It's pretty weird to me. It's almost like they're implying that you won't get pregnant if you only have sex after marriage. Like, why is the marriage part important here otherwise?
Because we all know fear-mongering and making sex taboo is what prevents teen pregnancies and not, real sexual education.
We had to watch a video made by Pam Stenzel, who had the typical, "my mother was going to get an abortion but was saved by the grace of God" story. The only things I remember hearing are that birth control never works, every person you ever sleep with will have an STD, you will inevitably get pregnant, and that condoms ruin relationships. Also, abortion is bad. But how dare you put your child up for adoption because you are inevitably giving them a life without love and they will be lonely forever.
I got lucky. I had my first sex ed class in 4th grade. Boys and girls were separate, and they basically just taught us anatomy of the other gender and what sex physically is, and that we were too young for it. We kinda had the same thing every year until 7th, 8th grade, junior high, where we were told about actual methods of birth control, the reality of STDs and why that made protection important, and the truth of pregnancy. They still heavily stressed that abstinence was the only foolproof way to not get pregnant or sick, which is true. We were also told that the average relationship for people ages 12 to 16 was 3 months, and you should get to know someone way better than that before you consider something so intimate. Looking back, it was actually really effing good sex ed. But it was also like 2015 by that time, in the Chicago area, less religion-centric than lots of other states.
That you only have a finite amount of love to give, and if you give it away to people before you're married you won't have any left for your partner.
I was also told this, and most importantly that I wouldn't have any love left for God, lol.
Our version of this was comparing sex to a piece of tape. The more often you stick to someone, the more you lose stickiness.
I don't have an experience with abstinence-only sex education because I received no sex education at school, but I am currently writing a paper, grant for my master's course about the need for a more comprehensive sex education in school versus abstinence only. Everyone's posts are great examples of why abstinence only doesn't work. Edit. Thank you everyone for the awards and for suggestions on other sources to look at. Thank you everyone for telling about your experiences. Hearing all of your stories just affirms why we need comprehensive age-appropriate sex education curriculums in middle and high schools.
I'm friends with a guy who was homeschooled by a single father and was taught that women didn't exist. He believed it for a long time.
How did he enforce that? Did the kid never leave the house? Christ, what a monster.
Honestly, he didn't really have to try to enforce it as hard as you might think. The town we both grew up in was an oil well town, so not a lot of women to begin with due to there not being a lot of women in the oil drilling industry. Really, all he had to do was homeschool him.
We had a teacher unwrap a piece of candy and pass it around the room. The last person was asked if they would eat the candy after everyone had touched it. This was meant to symbolize purity or sampu but was foiled when my friend ate the candy LMAO. Edit, just to answer a few extra questions. I believe it was a Jolly Rancher, which made it even funnier. This was definitely well before COVID. I don't believe he got in trouble, but the teacher definitely had to play it off with the "well, that's not the point, but" answer. Lol.
Your friend as an icon.
Mad lad.
What a effing legend.
Someone argued that having sex before marriage is like cheating on your future wife because you're supposed to save it for her LMAO.
What is the person that you are doing it with is your future husband or your future wife? Then what?
I quote, "If you have sex, you will get pregnant, and you will die."
Do not have sex. Do not have sex in missionary position, don't have sex standing up, just don't do it, promise? Now everyone grab a rubber.
Was the teacher a salmon?
That condoms are a conspiracy to limit the numbers of white people. 'Cause Negroes make 8 babies apiece, starting from the age of 12. So they foist birth control on us, 'cause we will be dumb enough to actually use it, as a nefarious plot to outbreed us. The Latinos are in on it, too.
WTF?
Oh yeah, the so-called teacher also threw in this. The Negro and Latino girls are so promiscuous at such a young age 'cause they are really ugly. They need to start humping when they are 11 with any man who will take them. That is why they are such WS and have so many teen pregnancies. They age very quickly, unlike whites, who age much better. By the time a Negro is 30, she looks like a beaten bag of potatoes. That is why a Negro's biological clock for making babies starts much earlier than a white woman's. White people are a superior and more beautiful species and so can afford to wait until their 20s to lose their virginities. They don't have sex in high school 'cause they don't need to. Don't have sex in high school. You can afford to not to. Instead of being shocked and disgusted, all the white kids were eagerly nodding along.
Virginity is the best gift a wife can give her husband.
So not a PS5? RF.
Taking birth control pills will actually poison the body, because menstruation is a form of waste disposal, like urination or pooting. It's a horrible misunderstanding of the menstrual cycle. What the uterus actually does is that it grows new endometrium, uterine tissue, during ovulation in anticipation of a pregnancy, but when it isn't available, it is discarded. When you take birth control pills, which do halt the menstrual cycle, it only means that the body will no longer waste energy growing new endometrium. It does not mean you can no longer expel the toxins from your own body anymore, because we already have the FC King kidneys for that.
I remember seeing some infographics showing a pyramid of people saying that having sex with someone is like having sex with all their partners, and their partners' partners, and so on and so forth. And that every additional partner increases the risk of cancer by some percentage. Edit. Since this kinda blew up, it has become evident that it was probably a poster about HPV, and so it's not all that outrageous at all, I suppose. I just remembered seeing it as a teenager and thinking, damn, I've only been with 2 girls but I've been with a lot of dudes between them.
That is sort of true, though. There is a virus called HPV and it can give you cancer, if you are a woman. That is a thing. If memory serves, even men can get this. I think.
Yeah, a friend of my wife's has it and she recently lost her husband to cancer that was caused by HPV. I don't remember anything about HPV on it, but I guess maybe that's what it was getting at. Each additional partner has a risk of having had HPV, I suppose? I dunno.
Thank you for watching. We upload new videos every day, so be sure to come back for more fun. Please consider liking and subscribing if you enjoyed the video.